Hayes stood frozen, his chest tightening as Emily's voice slithered through the ancient speaker, calm yet brimming with malice. "You're smart, detective," she purred, her tone mocking and sweet all at once. "Smarter than most. That's why I chose you. But you still don't understand the truth." The room fell into suffocating silence. The air itself felt alive, heavy, and charged with menace. Then Emily's voice shifted to a sinister whisper that seemed to crawl beneath Hayes' skin. "I was never the only monster in Crestwood." Before Hayes could process the words, a deep, unnatural creak echoed beneath him. A hidden panel in the rotting floor groaned as it slowly opened, releasing a stench so vile it turned his stomach. The putrid smell of decay, mildew, and death. Hayes instinctively raised his gun, heart hammering. From the darkness below, a pale, skeletal hand emerged, fingers unnaturally long. Its nails cracked and yellowed. Then came the sound of heavy, ragged breathing. With jerky, unnatural movements, something inhumanly wrong crawled into view. It was a man, or at least it had been once. Its flesh was gray and sagging, its glassy, vacant eyes locked on Hayes with eerie stillness. Its lips trembled as a guttural, animalistic growl escaped its throat. Emily's voice returned, playful now, like a predator introducing her prized beast. "Meet the quiet man," she said softly. "He doesn't think. He doesn't question. He only obeys." The creature's head twitched sharply, like a broken marionette, before it sprang forward with terrifying speed. Hayes fired instinctively. The first shot struck its chest, echoing through the wooden lodge, but the quiet man didn't stop. Hayes fired again and again, the bullets tearing into its flesh, yet it moved as if nothing could slow it. Desperation surged through Hayes. He dove aside as a massive hand smashed into the floorboards where he'd been standing, splintering the wood like paper. His hand found a rusted crowbar beneath a collapsed table. As the creature lunged again, Hayes swung with every ounce of strength he had. The crowbar connected with a sickening crack. The quiet man staggered backward, crashing into a collapsing bookshelf. Debris buried him beneath splintered wood and decades of dust. Hayes didn't wait. He scrambled to his feet and scanned the room, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. His breath caught when the beam landed on the far wall. There were dozens of trapdoors, identical to the one the quiet man had emerged from, each marked with a jagged crimson V. His stomach dropped. This wasn't just one monster. Emily had many. Hayes moved deeper into the lodge, finding a narrow hallway that opened into a small control room. Against the back wall sat an old terminal, its screen flickering to life with a dull, sickly green glow. Dust coated the keyboard, but the machine was active. He pressed a key, and suddenly the screen filled with live surveillance feeds. Hayes' blood ran cold. One feed showed the police station parking lot. Another showed the Crestwood Elementary playground. Another displayed the interior of Hayes' own home. Emily had been watching everything. Every person, every move, every secret in Crestwood. Hayes cycled through the feeds, each more disturbing than the last, until one image made his breath stop. It was a dimly lit basement floor covered with chains, manacles, and hooks bolted to the walls. In the corner sat a small, neatly arranged row of children's shoes. Rage boiled in Hayes' chest. She wasn't just manipulating people. She was taking children. Before he could move, the terminal screen went black. Static crackled, then resolved into Emily's face. Grainy and distorted, but unmistakable. She was older now, her once innocent features sharpened into something cruel and calculating. "Oh, Samuel," she purred mockingly. "So dramatic. Without me, this town would have rotted quietly in its own corruption. I gave Crestwood purpose." "Purpose?" Hayes snarled. "You're a murderer, a monster." Emily tilted her head, her smile widening. "Murderer? No, this town was never innocent. Not you, not me, not anyone. Crestwood is built on lies and blood. I simply remind it of what it truly is." Hayes gritted his teeth. "Where are the children, Emily? Where are they?" Her eyes gleamed. "If you want answers, detective, meet me at dawn, at the old Crestwood Bridge." Come alone, or you'll never know the truth." The screen went dark. Hayes stood trembling in the glow of the dying monitor. That's when he noticed a massive mural painted across the far wall. His flashlight revealed dozens of hooded figures in crimson robes standing around a roaring bonfire. Above them loomed the same jagged V symbol he'd seen on the trapdoors. Hayes' blood ran cold. Stories he dismissed as childhood ghost tales came flooding back. Whispers of the Crimson Veil, a secret society said to demand blood sacrifices to ensure Crestwood's prosperity. He had always thought it was folklore, nothing more, but this mural proved otherwise. Emily hadn't created this darkness. She had inherited it, and now she led it. Hayes turned to leave, his mind spinning, when something small caught his eye near the first trapdoor. Kneeling, he picked up a tiny, battered object. It was a child's shoe, its faded laces stiff with dried blood. Hayes' grip tightened. Emily wasn't just recruiting adults. She was indoctrinating the next generation, grooming children to become loyal followers of the Crimson Veil. Suddenly, a thunderous crash shook the room. Hayes spun around just in time to see the quiet man burst free from the wreckage of the bookshelf. Its body twisted and burned, but still impossibly strong. With a guttural roar, it charged. Hayes fired again and again, but the creature kept coming. In a split-second decision, Hayes' gaze locked on a rusted propane tank lying near the wall. He aimed and fired. The bullet struck true. The tank erupted in a massive explosion, a roaring fireball consuming the lodge. Hayes sprinted for the door as flames licked at his heels. The quiet man's agonized scream echoed behind him, swallowed by the inferno. He burst outside just as the structure collapsed in a fiery wave, lighting up the night sky with orange and crimson. Hayes staggered toward his car, gasping for breath, and froze. Dozens of shadowy, red-hooded figures stood silently among the trees. Their faces were hidden, their hands folded. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They only watched. Hayes stumbled backward, his instincts screaming. He leapt into his car and tore down the dirt road, the figures vanishing into the tree-line as if they'd never been there. Back at his apartment, Hayes locked every door and window, his hands trembling as he clutched the blood-stained child's shoe. Emily wasn't just a lone killer. She was the leader of a cult that had controlled Crestwood for generations. And Hayes realized, with dawning horror, that every move he'd made so far, every clue, every lead had been orchestrated by Emily, guiding him exactly where she wanted him to go. Dawn was only hours away. The Crestwood Bridge awaited. Hayes loaded his gun, slipped the tiny shoe into his jacket pocket, and whispered to himself, "This ends tonight." The final scene shifts back to the burned ruins of the lodge. Amid the smoke and ash, a single hidden camera flickers to life. The feed shows Emily standing in the shadows, watching Hayes' car speed away. Her cold smile widens. "Run, detective," she murmurs. "Run fast. The next chapter is about to begin." The screen fades to black, Emily's whisper echoing one last time, "See you soon, detective." The night air was sharp and bitter, cutting through Hayes' coat as he drove toward the old Crestwood Bridge. The sky was a blanket of black, moonlight barely breaking through the thick clouds. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Every mile brought him closer to Emily, and closer to answers he wasn't sure he wanted to hear. The tiny, blood-stained child's shoe sat on the dashboard, a grim reminder of what was at stake. Hayes' mind replayed Emily's words again and again. "I was never the only monster in Crestwood." They weren't just words, they were a warning. Crestwood had been rotten long before Emily vanished. She wasn't its origin, she was its evolution. And now Hayes was driving straight into her trap. As he neared the bridge, fog rolled off the river in thick, ghostly waves, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The old wooden structure loomed ahead, creaking under its own weight, a relic of a forgotten time. His headlights caught something in the distance, a single red lantern swaying slowly in the icy wind. Hayes parked a few yards away and stepped out, his gun drawn, every muscle tense. The silence was suffocating. No birds, no insects, just the creak of the bridge and the sound of his own heartbeat. Then, a soft, melodic voice cut through the fog like a blade. "Right on time, detective." Emily stepped into the glow of the lantern, her red cloak flowing around her like liquid fire. She looked older, yes, but more dangerous than ever. Her once bright eyes now shimmered with cold, calculated malice. She smiled, and the sight of it chilled Hayes to the bone. "Emily," he growled, his finger tightening on the trigger. "It ends tonight." Her laugh was soft, mocking. "Oh, Samuel," still clinging to that quaint idea of justice. "You think you're here to stop me?" She tilted her head, her smile widening. "You're here because I let you be here." Hayes took a step closer. "Where are the children?" Emily's expression darkened. "Safe, for now. But you don't really care about them, do you? You care about proving you're the hero of this story." She gestured toward the darkness beyond the bridge. "Look around you, detective. Crestwood doesn't need saving. It needs cleansing." Before Hayes could respond, movement flickered in the fog. Figures emerged from the shadows, dozens of them, cloaked in crimson robes, their faces hidden behind carved wooden masks. The crimson veil had arrived. They formed a silent circle around the bridge, their presence suffocating. Hayes' breath caught. There were so many. This wasn't just a cult. It was an army. Emily stepped closer, her voice low and hypnotic. For generations, Crestwood's leaders have been part of this circle. Mayors, police chiefs, judges, even your own captain. She smiled when Hayes flinched. "Oh yes, Samuel. You've been following orders from one of my own. Why do you think every lead you ever chased went nowhere?" Hayes felt sick. You've been pulling the strings all along." Emily's eyes glittered. "And you've been my favorite puppet." Hayes steadied his aim. "Not anymore." Before he could fire, the cultists began to chant. A deep, rhythmic hum that made the wooden bridge vibrate beneath Hayes' feet. The sound was primal, ancient, like the heartbeat of something older than the town itself. Emily raised her arms, commanding the circle. "Tonight, the old blood is renewed. Tonight, Crestwood ascends." Two hooded figures dragged something out of the fog and onto the bridge. Hayes' heart dropped when he saw it. It was a cage. Inside were three terrified children, their faces streaked with tears. The smallest clutched a worn teddy bear, whimpering softly. Rage surged through Hayes. "Let them go, Emily." She only smiled. "Sacrifice demands purity. Their innocence will feed the fire that keeps Crestwood alive." Hayes fired a warning shot into the air. The sound echoed across the river, startling some of the cultists. But Emily didn't flinch. "You can't save them," she said coldly. "Not unless you make a choice." "What choice?" Hayes shouted. Emily's smile widened, her teeth gleaming in the lantern light. "Join me. Become my right hand. Together, we can reshape this town into something magnificent." Hayes' stomach twisted. "I'd rather die." Emily sighed, almost disappointed. "Then you will." She snapped her fingers. The cultists surged forward like a wave of red and shadow. Hayes opened fire, dropping 3 of them instantly, but there were too many. He dove behind the cage, using it as cover, as the children screamed. "Stay down!" He barked at them, reloading. A massive figure emerged from the fog. A new quiet man, even larger than the one from the lodge. Its head twitched unnaturally, a guttural roar echoing from deep within its chest. Hayes fired at it, but the bullets barely slowed it down. Thinking fast, Hayes shot the chain holding the cage's door shut. "Run!" he screamed at the children. They bolted toward the forest as the cultists gave chase. Hayes turned to face the quiet man. It charged, its footsteps shaking the bridge. At the last second, Hayes dove to the side. The creature's massive bulk crashed into one of the bridge's rotting support beams, splintering it. The entire structure groaned ominously. Emily's laughter rang out over the chaos. "Oh, Samuel, you've just doomed yourself." Hayes spotted a lantern lying near the edge of the bridge. He grabbed it and hurled it at the creature. Flames erupted, engulfing its tattered robes. The monster flailed wildly, stumbling into another support beam. With a deafening crack, the bridge began to collapse. Cultists screamed as the wooden planks gave way, plunging them into the icy river below. Hayes scrambled towards solid ground, dodging falling debris. Emily stood calmly amid the chaos, her cloak billowing like wings. She watched Hayes with an unnerving serenity. "This isn't over, detective," she said, her voice rising above the roar of the collapsing bridge. "It's only just beginning." Before Hayes could reach her, she stepped backward into the fog and vanished. The bridge finally gave way completely, sending the quiet man and several cultists crashing into the river's depths. Hayes barely made it to the bank, collapsing in the mud, gasping for breath. The children were safe, huddled together beneath a tree on the far side of the road. Relief flooded Hayes, but it was fleeting. Emily was gone, again. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, Hayes stared at the ruins of the bridge. He had saved lives, yes, but Crestwood was far from safe. Emily's cult was still out there, and now he knew the terrifying truth. This wasn't just a local conspiracy. The Crimson Veil was everywhere. Back at the station, Hayes was met with cold stares. His captain's voice was icy as he demanded a report. "You disobeyed direct orders, Samuel. You went rogue." Hayes studied his captain's face, searching for a crack in the mask. Emily's words echoed in his mind. "Even your own captain." He said nothing, only handed over the blood-stained child's shoe. "Look me in the eye," Hayes said softly, "and tell me you're not one of them." The captain didn't flinch, didn't answer. Hayes knew then that Emily's web reached deeper than he'd ever imagined. That night, as he sat alone in his apartment, Hayes heard a soft thud against his window. He froze. A single Polaroid photo was taped to the glass. It showed Emily, standing atop the collapsed bridge, her arms raised like a victorious queen. On the back, scrawled in red ink, were 3 words: "The hunt continues." Hayes' jaw tightened. This wasn't over. Not even close. The camera fades to black as Emily's laughter echoes, promising a final confrontation in Part 4, where the true scale of her empire will finally be revealed. The screen fades in from black. A storm rages over Crestwood, lightning illuminating the shattered remains of the old bridge. Detective Samuel Hayes stands alone at the edge of the river, soaked to the bone, his jaw set with grim determination. In his hand, he holds the Polaroid Emily left for him, the red ink smeared from the rain. The hunt continues. Hayes knows there's only one way this ends, face to face with Emily, no matter the cost. The camera pans to a darkened warehouse on the outskirts of town. Its windows shattered, graffiti-covered walls whispering of the lives ruined within. Hayes enters cautiously, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The smell of decay is overpowering. Then, a distorted voice echoes from an old speaker hidden somewhere in the shadows. "Detective Hayes." Emily's voice purrs, calm and mocking. "I was hoping you'd come alone. You've been so busy chasing me. You didn't notice who's been chasing you." Hayes whirls around, gun drawn, but there's no one there. The heavy metal door slams shut behind him with a deafening clang. Chains rattle as thick iron shutters drop over the windows. Hayes is trapped. Emily's laughter fills the room, cold and hypnotic. "You still don't understand, Samuel. I didn't just manipulate this town. I manipulated you. From the very beginning, every clue you thought you uncovered was a path I laid for you. Even your precious past isn't what you think it is." Hayes clenches his teeth, rage boiling inside him. "You're lying." "Oh, am I?" Emily's tone turns almost sweet. "Your parents didn't die in that accident, Samuel. They were chosen, sacrificed by the Crimson Veil. By me. You've been part of the story your entire life." Hayes' grip on his gun falters. Memories flash in his mind, fragmented images of childhood trauma he'd buried deep. No, that's not true." Emily's voice is pure venom now. "Crestwood's darkness flows through your veins. You're not its savior. You're its heir." Suddenly, a hidden panel in the floor creaks open. Something massive crawls out, its limbs long and twisted, its body shrouded in rags. Its face, if it can be called that, is a grotesque mask of sewn flesh and jagged teeth. Hayes realizes with horror what Emily has done. "Meet your predecessor," she whispers. "The first quiet man." The creature lunges with an unholy screech. Hayes dives to the side, firing round after round into the monster's chest, but it doesn't stop. It slams him into the wall, knocking the breath from his lungs. His gun skitters across the floor. Emily's laughter rises above the chaos. "You see now, Samuel? Violence is in your blood." Hayes struggles, grabbing a loose pipe from the wreckage. As the creature charges again, he drives the pipe through its throat, collapses, thrashing violently before falling still. Hayes, bloodied and gasping, staggers to his feet. "Emily," he roars, "show yourself." A door at the far end of the room creaks open. Emily steps through, calm and composed, her crimson cloak glowing in the dim light. "Bravo, detective. You've survived my final test. Now choose. Embrace the darkness and rule beside me, or burn with the rest of them." Hayes glares at her, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "I don't need power. I need justice." He hurls a lit flare onto a trail of gasoline he'd spotted earlier. Flames erupt, racing across the warehouse floor. Emily's expression shifts from confidence to fury as the fire spreads. "You fool!" she screams. "If Crestwood burns, so do you." Hayes grabs his gun and takes aim. "This ends with you." The screen slows as Hayes fires. A single gunshot echoes through the burning building. When the smoke clears, Hayes stumbles outside, barely alive. Behind him, the warehouse collapses in a tower of fire. For a moment, it seems Emily's reign is finally over. But as Hayes catches his breath, lightning illuminates the forest across the river. For just a second, he sees her silhouette, standing tall, unharmed, watching him with that same terrifying smile. Emily's voice, faint but clear, echoes through the storm. "This is only the beginning." The screen fades to black. White text appears. "The hunt continues." Then, Hayes' voice speaks directly to the audience. "If you've been following this nightmare with me, don't let the story end here. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Trust me, you won't want to face what comes next alone."